Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good one. So today we are going to cover the pig and go over some tips that are going to help you out whenever you are playing with her. In this pig guide, I'm going to cover some common mistakes people make when playing as her. Now, the other thing we are going to focus on in this guide is how to use her power and use it to her full potential. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, the first thing that we are going to cover is her power. Now I'm just going to kind of just briefly explain it just in case you are brand new to the game or you are unfamiliar with her. So her power is called Jigsaw's Baptism. You are going to start the match off with 4 reverse bear traps and you are going to put them on survivors when they are downed. The reverse bear traps become active when a gen is completed. Once the traps are active, the survivor will have a set amount of time to get the trap off their head, or they will be sacrificed. Survivors also cannot escape with a trap on them. If they do, they will be instantly sacrificed. The only way to get the trap off the survivor is to go to a jigsaw box and get the trap off. Amanda also has 2 other abilities as well. She has the ability to crouch, and she has no terror radius and the undetectable status effect. Her second ability is the ambush dash. When Amanda is crouched, she can charge and hit survivors at an increased speed for a short duration. Now that we have an understanding of how the pig's powers work and all that, let's go ahead and go to gameplay tips. So when playing the pig, the first thing I would recommend, and I always do unless there are no gens next to me whatsoever, is I always go into crouch fairly quickly once the match starts. Now the reason being is, yes, you do move, a good amount slower while you are crouched, but I would rather get a free hit on a survivor rather than them hearing me coming and sneak away just because I did not crouch. However, one thing I will say is do not live and die by crouching. The reason is this is important is because, remember, you do move pretty slow when you're crouched, so it makes no sense to be crouched, the whole game. Another good time to crouch is when you are using a tracking or aura perks. So for example, if you have a barbecue and chili or something like thrilling tremors that gives you an idea of where survivors are at or what gen they are on, you can get about roughly 30 to 35 meters close to them and crouch and sneak up and get a free hit or a free down. But now let's go ahead and cover movement and positioning. When it comes to movement and positioning, you're going to want to move with a purpose as you would with any killer, but because you are a stealth killer, your movement and position needs to be pretty spot on for the most part. So take what I said for example earlier. I crouch pretty early in games and patrol generators closest to me because more often than not, you're going to have a survivor that's going to spawn pretty close to you. Now, it's not going to be all the time or perfectly exact, but most of the time you'll have at least one survivor that will spawn relatively close to you. Now, when I know a survivor is on a gen that I'm patrolling, I always try to use objects, walls, trees, bushes, and everything in between so I don't get spotted whenever I make my move towards the survivor on the generator. Let's talk about what we can do once we have found our survivors. We can ambush them with our dash and hit the survivor. We can uncrouch and use our slight bit of no terror radius to get a free hit on them and start a chase. Or we can grab them off the generator and hook them. There's no right or wrong answer, really. It's just whatever you feel comfortable with doing. So, with those 3 options, you really just cannot go wrong. It's just whatever you personally feel comfortable with. The point of this tip is to use the environment to your advantage whenever you are crouching. Now let's go ahead and cover using the traps. Alright, so let's talk about using Amanda's traps and getting the most use out of her traps. So, a lot of her success with the traps comes when survivors make mistakes, and a lot of people make mistakes against the pig, and these mistakes are very common, and normally they're not a mistake, but I'm just going to give you an example. So, for example, let's say you down a survivor and trap them, and then a gen is completed. Not only do you get a hook on the trapped survivor, but once they are unhooked, they're going to be trying to get the trap off of them, and that means one less person working on a generator. Now, normally, getting a gen done does not mean a mistake. Normally, that's a good thing. But in this particular example, it is a mistake because that person's trap is active, so that means that there's one less person working on a generator. One thing that is very important is, let's say that the survivor you have trapped gets unhooked. There's no reason to go after the person that has an active trap on their head, because really it's just a waste of a trap, and on top of it, they're not going to be on a generator, so why waste your time going after them when you could be going after the person that unhooked them, or just hunting another survivor to slow the game down a little bit. And then the other example I kind of want to give is, if you have a survivor who's kind of an issue that's kind of running you around and just making life hell, and they have a trap on their head, there's no reason to chase them and force them to waste your time when you're supposed to be wasting their time. I just kind of wanted to throw that in there because some people that play the pig do that. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the guide. It was a lot of fun. Hopefully these tips helped you out. It was a blast. If you are brand new, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys later.